Let me now invite Mr. R.Mukundan. He is the Managing Director and CEO of Tata Chemicals, one of the founding organizations of Mervyn Academy for Sustainable Development in Asia. Welcome, Mr. Mukundan. Mukundan will share the best practices of Tata Group in general and Tata Chemicals in particular as to how Tatas are integrating SDGs in business strategies. Over to you, Mr. Mukundan.
Thank you, Virendra, and also delighted to be part of this, and absolutely delighted to be here in the company of Lord Judge Mervyn King, in whose name the Academy is kept, and what we are celebrating today as anniversary. I've prepared, as you said, Mahindra, as part of this presentation. What you wanted me to speak about was focus more on CSR and focus more on how do you measure impact and how do you measure impact assessment so that it's practical for everybody. So I've tried to do that in as simple as easy way as possible, taking few of the examples of what we do. So if you can put up the slides, somebody can put up the slides we shared. Thank you. So broadly, if you look at at Tata Group, it's been the way we've approached sustainability. It's fairly embedded into not just strategy. It goes one step beyond strategy. It goes to the very purpose of the company, and also it goes to the culture we want to build in the company. For years, I can only tell you, I've been in this group for 32 years. At least 30 years, I've seen the purpose of the company has remained same, which is to improve quality of life. It's in the mission statement, improve quality of life, and it has not changed at all. And it's a very general statement. So every company, every action, what we undertake must go to improve quality of life for the communities. And the culture we want to build here is fundamentally based around the words leadership and trust. The most important thing, we want to lead, but we want to do it in a way that we can earn trust of our stakeholders. And that has guided all our actions, all through at least what I've seen here from the time this was framed about 30 years ago. That also takes us to the point that what are the value systems which guide you? And there were 5 pillars of our values, of which all the 5 have more or less remained same. The only one which got slightly modified about 10 years ago was pioneering, but integrity, excellence, unity, and responsibility have remained at the core of what we do. And the word responsibility actually covers this whole aspect which we are speaking about in terms of sustainable development. More specifically, as we go, in the recent years, we've actually parameterized many of this, and we started to measure them, and that goes around 3 pillars of ESG. On environment, our key focus is centered around climate change, where most of the companies have specific targets by 2030. For example, Tata Chemicals has got a target to reduce carbon by 30% by 2030. On water, all of us are committed to be water neutral or water positive. In fact, in India, we are water positive, and we would continue to move in that direction across all our companies. In terms of resource intensity, Mahindra, you spoke about that in 7 months, we have gone beyond what Earth's capacity is. Circularity is a very important theme, and we want to focus on that because this is the theme which will sort of reduce the resource intensity. We are also focused on biodiversity, and different companies have taken different aspects of biodiversity. Tata Chemicals, for example, focuses more on life below water, which is marine resources. And I'll speak a bit about why we are focused on marine resources, our key focus. On the societal part, our culture, our approach has always been like most Indian companies because of the where the situation India finds itself in. CSR has been a big part of most Indian companies, and we've continued to do that. But CSR is also coupled with volunteering. What we've done recently post-COVID, safety has become a very important issue. Safety and occupational health and community health has taken a center stage. And that's one piece which we work very, very closely with our communities, both nearby our factories, nearby where our demand centers are. And we are also focused on improving diversity, where I think India has a long way to go. And most of our companies also need to take a stretch. But many companies are ahead, but many manufacturing companies need to do a lot more. More recent focus has been on human rights. This, I think, will become increasingly important for Indian companies as India also becomes a signatory to the Human Rights Charter, and corporates will be measured against this element, not just in their operations, but right across their supply chain. For many years, many Indian corporates have continued to support in disaster response, and we've also been focused on this. And the disaster response requirement from companies has increased recently, and that's been an outcome of what Mahendra and you and Judge Mervyn King have spoken many times about the climate change and its severe climate incidents which are happening with greater frequency now. And lastly, one of the things which has come to core attention in the last 3, 4 years has been the supply chain sustainability and where social impact plays a big role. In terms of governance, certainly board has a big board oversight is a big role, but also we believe disclosures are the right way to go ahead to get the corporate behavior and corporate outcomes which we want. So sustainability disclosure is something which we focus on. There are a few metrics I've listed here. I think these are part of our annual report. They're available on the website. The key ones are that we've just finished executing a carbon capture and usage plant in UK, partly funded by the UK government, and it's been very successful. And in terms of community, we have, for example, focused on our 1.4 million mangrove trees have been planted. This number is increasing by the rate of about 250,000 every year, but we believe that we can accelerate this further. This would provide resilience to our coastal areas as the coastal areas come under severe stress going forward due to storm surges, which we think will be part of the impact climate change is going to create. And lastly, in terms of species protection, which is a central part of what we do as life underwater, we are focused on whale shark. This is a benchmark project. In fact, it has won recognition by UN and other agencies for having been benchmark project in partnership with government. And we work very focused way with Gujarat government, and already about 850 whale sharks have been rescued. And every year this number goes, and we work with the fishermen, the fisher folk. And this is by protecting whale shark, we believe we are also bringing to light the whole centrality of marine ecosystem, which will play a central role going forward, at least in the coastal areas. Can I go to the next slide? Yeah, thank you. This is to what, Mahendra, you highlighted. Can you focus more on CSR? Our CSR efforts are more or less centered around the themes which I spoke about. But let me just say, with respect to community, it is clearly focused around education and skill development. And here we've got programs starting from how do we improve the primary school, the conditions of primary school in the districts we operate in, right up to giving scholarships and support to people. Skill development, we run many programs, including rural entrepreneurship program and skill training programs. And these would impact the SDGs around the issue of no poverty and also quality education. In terms of volunteering, certainly our teams are fully involved in all these programs, including education and skill development. And this impacts the areas of, I would say, quality education again, and also leads to climate action, where we take our volunteers do a lot of work in that area. The one key area which we focus on with respect to community, while we have a program which is Water for Life, which is about making sure fresh drinking water is available in the communities we operate, we also focus on water for livelihood. In fact, this is what I'm going to focus in the next slide in terms of the kind of impact assessment it has done in one part of one district, in one taluka, as we call it, in one block of a district, not all over where we operate, but we've taken one block as an example. And lastly, when I spoke about species protection, this is about the kind of work which we do in whale shark. We've also done the first coral reef replantation and restoration, where because of the impact on the corals due to high temperatures in the seas around coast of Gujarat, we've actually done the transplantation from corals which were brought in from Andaman and Nicobar, and the second transplantation has been very successful, and we want to sort of scale this up in terms of coral reef restoration. Next slide, please. This broadly depicts is a pretty busy chart, but all I want to say is that we have a proper process of whenever we undertake CSR project, it is about empowering the community. We believe our role is to empower them and exit, and the communities take care of themselves, and we enable them rather than help them on an ongoing basis, or after a period of time, they become self-sufficient and they sort of grow on their own. There is certainly a joint planning, there is an implementation, there is a monitoring phase, and there is also impact assessment phase, which we do. We also do a midline impact assessment, which is one is the baseline, then the midline, and then exit impact, which we do. And here, for example, what we have shown is a Jaldan program, which is the watershed development program, which are done in a very arid zone in Gujarat, in district Devbhumi, Dwarka district, and in one taluka of that, one block of that. And you can see, for example, from nil water storage capacity, that capacity has gone up to 500 million cubic feet over the last 10 years. And this has been a massive impact on the community. When we look at the outcome impact, we've seen that the migration, this is anecdotal, the migration has actually reduced. This is what the villagers report. But more importantly, what we've done is in terms of household income, this specific activity itself has resulted in about 60,000 rupees annual income increase per household. So these are kind of metrics which we measure when we look at our programs. So broadly, what we wanted to say is that our approach to SDGs is fairly integrated into our whole purpose and the culture we want to build. It is enabled through our teams. We work closely with communities, and we want to bring impact which is measurable and which can be seen by community. And finally, community becomes the owner of all these actions. With this, I'm happy to later on, if there are any questions, share that, Mahindra. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
So thank you, Mr. Mukundan, for sharing those extensive work that Tata Group in general is doing, and Tata Chemicals in particularly doing it. And uh, I take the most powerful message from here that embedding these SDGs in the purpose is extremely important, and that creates a culture across the organization, and that's how the uptake will really improve. And what I like in your presentation is that you have a very structured way of social impact assessment, and you are measuring, because it's the outcome which is important for whatever resources that you are putting in from the organization. So thank you for that.